Hi everybody, this is Tracy here for another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap 911, which airs on Fox, Season 1, Episode 4, which was titled Worst Day Ever. Lord have mercy. After watching this episode, I already hate to fly. Like, it takes a lot to get me on an airplane. And after this episode, I may never ever get on another airplane again. So the show opens up with these people and they're on this airplane, and I think they were getting ready. They must have been getting ready to land because the stewardess was going, I'm sorry, the flight attendant was going down the aisle trying to collect all the debris and telling people, you know, to put their stuff away. And then we had this one couple, I think it was a black guy and an Asian chick. They decide that they won't go to the bathroom and have sex while the plane is landing for some reason. But everything goes awry. It's just a mess because they hit turbulence. And then people just start flying all over the plane. And I have actually been on a plane. I think it dropped, was it 3,000 feet? I know we had like a huge drop because it was turbulence ahead. And when I tell you that plane went down and I thought I was about to die right then. So I don't know what happened on this plane that the people actually started. Maybe it was because they weren't, I don't know, because we were actually flying at high altitude. So maybe whatever they hit, it was because they weren't in their seat belts, and so they started flying and everything. And Lord, when that cart went down that aisle and that stewardess got out of the way just in time, but then the cart hit the bathroom door and trapped the people in the bathroom. And so as we go through the show, we totally forget about the people in the bathroom, but that'll come back up. So at the fire station, you know, Buck is being a deadbeat because they had all agreed to chip in, I think, $20 each to send Chimney this gift basket. And Buck hasn't given his money, so Henrietta is on him about, you know, you need to pay your fair share like everybody else did. So Bobby is off to the side and he has this little journal that he's always writing in or reading or whatever. And so Buck wants to know, you know, what is that all about? And Henrietta tells him, let it go. There's something personal with him. He doesn't like talking about it. Don't push the issue. But of course, that just makes Buck want to push the issue that much further. So he goes over to Bobby and he's asking Bobby about it. So Bobby closes the book up and he gets up and he walks away and he's like telling Buck, mind your own business. Don't worry about it. So then it turns out that Buck has somehow got his hands on that book because he knows that there's like 48 people in the book that, and they're all people that Bobby has saved during his career as a paramedic, and that there's room for like 146 or something. I'm probably getting the numbers all wrong. But he's like, why do you do that? What's that all about? So Bobby has to jack him up and be like, leave me alone. Stay out of my business. You have no right to touch my stuff. And don't worry about what it's about. Go worry about yourself. Go pay Henrietta them $20 you owe her. So as those two are sparring, the call comes in about the plane crash. And so the operator, the person who's calling it, I thought it was so interesting that people on the plane as the plane was crashing were able to make phone calls out. Like, I didn't know you could make phone calls on the plane if the plane is flying. But anyway, 911 operator thinks that the person is saying that they're on a train, and they're like, no, a plane, an airplane. Then the scene goes over to Athena, and Athena lost her doggone mind because she is stalking the kids that were bullying her daughter, because remember, the daughter attempted suicide. So she's sitting outside the house of one of the kids, and she lives in like this really big, I call them make mansions. It's a really big house in a, you know, a subdivision. And so the kids are having a party, and I think they either left school early to have the party, or it was like right after school. But Athena crashes the party and tells the kids that the neighbors were calling and complaining about the noise and what was going on. So the girl whose house it was, her name was Layla, and I guess she's the head bully in charge. So she tries to hide her purse, and she goes over to ask Athena, you know, what's going on? And she says, well, there was complaint from neighbors. And so the girl says, well, then she said there was a complaint about a bad odor or something like that. So the little girl said, well, nobody here is smoking marijuana. And she said, well, I didn't say anybody here was smoking marijuana. And actually the complaint was about a stank, nasty hoe. And that's you. And I was sitting there like, wait, hold on. These are kids. These are like, because Athena's daughter looked like she could be in middle school. And I know I be talking about this on my recaps of the Chi, how these kids look like little kids, but then I guess they're supposed to be in in middle school and high school, and we're supposed to believe that they're not 10 years old. But I thought the little girl was in middle school, but maybe these some high school kids, maybe they're in 9th grade. And so another girl walks up, and her name is Georgina. And so Georgina turns out to also be a friend of May, who is Athena's daughter. And so she's asking her, you know, well, how is she doing? And she's and then Athena makes it clear to Layla that Georgina has actually spent the night at her home and is supposed to be May's friend. But why is she over here, you know, you bullying kids? So she goes off on the little girl, telling the little girl how she is running the school, everybody's scared of her, nobody likes her. And then then the girl was like, her dad was an attorney, but somehow we got to the point where Athena done flipped the girl around and threw her in handcuffs and arrested her because she saw her when she hid the purse. And so she pulls the drugs, the bag of weed or whatever it was, out of the purse. So she arrests the girl. I'm like, Lord, Athena, you about to lose your job. You need to be using all this aggression and anger on that man that you married to who's sleeping with other men. That's what you need to be jacking up, handcuffed, kicking in the behind and all of that. Leading kids along. People will have you arrested for messing with their kids. So as Athena is leading Layla away, Georgina, you know, she's like, excuse me, Miss Grant, you know, how is May doing? And she was like, why don't you go ask her yourself? I was like, oh my God, Bernadette. Because Athena is acting like Bernadette from Waiting to Exhale right now. But like I said, she need to be burning up Michael's stuff and releasing that aggression on Michael and not on these people kids. So she gets back to the station, and she has Layla in a holding room, you know, where they question them. So her parents show up, and they are 98 hot, okay? They're like, what is you doing, lady? Are you crazy? You know, we will have you sued. You better release our daughter right now. And so she's telling them that their daughter is a bully. She's a menace to society. Don't nobody like her. And I'm just like, Athena, pull back, sis. Pull back. Come on, you're doing way too much. And so as she's arguing with the parents and telling them that she's not going to let the little girl know, and they need to get the girl some counseling, and the reason she act the way she do is because she's a nightmare because the parents are a nightmare. So now she insulting the parents. And so in the middle of all that, she gets the call about the plane crash. So she has to lead the people. She tells them she ain't releasing the girl. So she runs out. And so when she gets to the airport, like all these reporters and stuff, they swarm her. And so, you know, she ain't got time for them. And then as she's trying to, you know, be professional and tell the people that they're, you know, trying to assess the situation and they're doing the best they can, and, you know, she'll come back once she has more information. She gets a call that comes in about a rowdy passenger on a plane. So then she goes to the plane to deal with that situation. So basically the CEO of that airline has called down and said, don't let anybody leave the plane, that the people can't leave the plane, keep them on the plane, because what happened with the plane that crashed could have been terrorism. So he wants to contain everybody. So Athena get on that plane and she's talking to the airport's police officer. And so she's like, okay, so what happened? So the guy said that the passenger assaulted him. why he had to took duct tape and taped it across the man's face and then wrapped the man's body in tape around the seat, the airplane seat, to restrain him. And so a black lady gets up and she says, oh, I got the whole thing recorded. I got the whole thing recorded. So Athena looks at the video, and it was actually the airport police officer that assaulted the passenger. And basically the guy was saying that his dad died and he was escorting the body back home for the funeral. And so he was trying to get off the plane because they can't leave. You know, the plane's just sitting there, which means it's getting hot and everything down there in the cargo area. And he just needs to get his dad out of the cargo area and to the morticians, you know, for the body, decay or whatever going on. And so Athena turns on the airport police officer and basically tell him he a bully and that, you know, she taking command of the plane and she can't believe that he holding these people on the airplane at the word of some CEO who's somewhere across the country sitting in a penthouse somewhere. And the guy's like, you can't do that. And he put his hand on Athena and she was like, I know you didn't just put your hand on me. If you don't get your hand off of me. He said, she said, you called me on this plane because you said you had an unruly passenger. She said, well, he is now under arrest. I'm taking him into custody and taking him off this plane. So she ripped the tape off the guy's mouth and take the tape off his arms. And so the guy starts talking. So she said, you need to be quiet. I got this. Let me handle this. She said, as a matter of fact, everybody on this damn plane under arrest. Everybody, get up off the plane. So like, does this happen in real life? Because I know we be debating about whether or not this is stuff that's taken from the headlines or not. So Athena, girl, you about to get fired. And you gonna really have to go deal with Michael's situation once these people take your job away from you and you sitting at the house and ain't got nothing to do but think about how this man done disrupted your whole life, got your child over there trying to commit suicide and all this good stuff. And then actually I think Michael called. Oh, she was on the phone with Michael before she went to Layla's house and was telling Michael where she was at and what she was doing, which was so stupid because if you eventually divorce this man, he can use this against you to get custody of the kids. So Michael was telling her she was crazy. What are you doing? You're going to get in trouble and all that stuff. But she said she didn't care. She said, I would think that you would want to come and witness this. That you would want to see what's about to go down. And Michael said, look, all I'm trying to do is be able to see my daughter. Because evidently they still haven't been able to see May. Because remember, the Child Protective Services came in and they got to analyze her and have her talk to a counselor to make sure the parents ain't the reason that she trying to commit suicide. So Michael said, I ain't got nothing to do with it. I ain't coming over there. I'm 10 feet away from that. Back to the plane crash. The crew arrived and they assessed the damage and they say they have 4 minutes to rescue everybody that's left on the plane because the plane had them broken in half. People were on top of the plane. Then there were people jumping into the water trying to swim to shore. There was oil in the water that had been caught on fire. It was a hot mess. So they get out there to the plane and, you know, they are helping people get back to shore. They have rescue boats and everything out there. So the 3 main characters, Henrietta, Buck, and Bobby, they go on the plane. And so there was a lady and a little boy, and the lady was trapped. Her feet were trapped because I think the seat in front of her had slid back. And the little boy was crying, so they was telling the little boy, okay, we're going to get you off the plane, then we're going to take care of your mom. And the little boy was like, no, I'm not leaving my mom. I'm not leaving my mom. And so the mother says, okay, I'm coming, honey, but first we need you to get off the plane, and then I'll be out there, you know, as soon as I can. I promise you, I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going anywhere. And so they finally get the little boy off the plane. So as they're trying to move the seat off the lady's legs, they hear this screaming. So remember them 2 fools I told you about earlier in the recap that done went in the bathroom to have sex? So they yelling, help, help, get us out. We can't get out. So they go and they can't open the door. So then Buck, one of the rescue boats was getting ready to leave. So he stops the boat and then he ties this cable to the door of the bathroom and then throw the other side to the rescue boat, and he ties it on the boat and then tell them to speed off as fast as they can. Now I'm thinking that would have caused the boat to flip backwards, but it didn't. It ripped the door off. And then the door comes flying, and Henrietta and Bobby, they got to get out the way before they get killed by this door flying through the airplane. So they get those two people off and get them to safety. But now they're trying to get the woman out. And I'm thinking now, it's been more than 4 minutes. This has been about 10, 15 minutes since all this been going on. But the plane is filling up with water, and now the water's up to here, and Bobby's trying to get the lady up, and I think he eventually pulled the seat off, but the water was rising so fast, and then he couldn't get her out of the seat. I think something was going on with the seatbelt. Oh, let's stop right there. Speaking of the seatbelt, when they first got on the plane, there was a guy who was trapped, and his seatbelt, I guess, had burned into his skin, and Henrietta was like, okay, you know, on count of 3. 1, 2, 3, and she ripped that seatbelt off of him, and it just, oh my God, it was so grotesque. I was like, oh, this is too much. I ain't getting on no more planes. So back to the lady. The water's filling up. They're trying to get her out. Bobby's telling her he's not going to leave her. He promises he'll never leave her, that he's going to get her off the plane. And so Buck comes. And he's like, we gotta go, we gotta go. It's a helicopter hovering overhead. And he's like, you know, we don't have any more time. So now the water done really like covered their head. And so he tells Bobby, oh, take my hand, you know, come on, take my hand, take this rope. I got an idea. So Bobby goes to Buck for whatever it is that Buck was trying to give him, or Buck was trying to do. So this scene happened all in like 2 seconds. So I don't really know what happened, how all of this worked out. So I think Buck was trying to pull Bobby, but Bobby was trying to get back to the lady, and then the lady was reaching and he was trying to get her hand, and then all of a sudden they was out of the plane and the helicopter was moving up. So Buck was hooked to the anchor on the helicopter, and then he hooked himself to Bobby. And then Bobby grabbed the woman by the hand, and then they all just came, because Buck was saying, you know, it's going to work, just, you know, trust me, it's going to work. But like I said, that scene happened so fast that I don't know how all of them got pulled up by that helicopter. But anyway, it was a bunch of casualties. So then we had a scene at the emergency call center. And this guy is calling in, and he's saying that he is on the plane, and the plane is about to crash, and he doesn't think he's going to make it. He's married to this woman named Annie, and that Annie's pregnant, and he just wants them to call Annie and let her know that he loves her. And I get so emotional. I think everybody was crying at this scene and just thinking about it. You know, basically he loves her, that he wishes, you know, he would be there when she had the baby and to see the baby grow up, but he don't think he's going to be there. But know that he loves her. And I was just like, oh my God, this show. And I mean, after I watched This Is Us and then watched this show, I'm just a wreck. We have Abby calling Buck to ask him about, you know, casualties and everything. And then she says, well, there was this guy that came in. His name is Dale Marks. Can you find out if he survived? Because, you know, she don't want to call the wife and let the wife know. And so he goes over and sweet talks one of the rescuers on the scene who's doing like the triage and taking names and everything and finding out who survived. And so she goes down the list, and then she says, well, there's no Dale Marks on this list, so you may want to go check over there. And I guess that's where they had like the makeshift morgue at. And so he goes over there and he finds the Dale Marks guy, and of course he was dead. Then he goes back and calls Abby to let her know that the guy didn't make it. So now Abby's sitting there listening to the recording over and over again, and, you know, she got to call the lady. So she calls the wife, and the wife comes down, and she tells her that the recording was going to be released to the media, which I don't understand. Like, why do we have to release stuff to the media, and then they just going to play it over and over and over and over just to get ratings on their TV show? But she told the lady if she wanted to listen to it before it got released to the media, then she could. So this woman was like 8 or 9 months pregnant, and she comes and she sits down at the desk and puts on the headphones, and my heart just broke again. I had to keep telling myself, this is television, like this didn't really happen, but deep down inside I know that stuff like this happens all the time. So of course she's crying and we all crying at the house as this is going on. So after everything is over and done with, and I don't know if it was later that day or maybe it was the next day, because I think the plane crash was at night. So we go back to Athena. So Athena gets called into the captain's office, and the captain is like, what is wrong with you? Like, you done gone rogue. What's happening in your life? And so Athena thinks that she's in trouble for getting the people off of the airplane, but the captain's like, I actually agree with you. Internal Affairs reviewed all the footage and statements from the passengers, and you did the right thing, so that's not the issue. What I want to talk to you about is going over there terrorizing them kids at them people's house. And so she tells Athena that she is out of control. She needs to get some help, some counseling. She's sorry that a child almost, died from a suicide, but this wasn't the way to handle it. She can't be misusing her authority and her badge. And we are putting you on administrative, and we're putting you on desk duty. So she's on administrative suspension where she can't be out on the street. She got to turn in a gun and sit at the desk and do paperwork. And so Athena is pissed off, and the lady's like, you should be happy I'm not firing you. But Athena, now she really about to get some revenge. But once again, I say go over there to Michael and kick Michael behind. Do what Bernadette would have done in Waiting to Exhale. Go off on him like Anna Mae did in What's Love Got to Do with It. Because, girl, you got to reel it back in before you totally lose everything. And Michael probably want her to go off the deep end, like I said, so he can take them kids and go on over there with his man lover. But I'm thinking, if my husband told me he was gay, he ain't taking my kids nowhere. You ain't even putting my child in that situation. No way, no how. So then we go to Bobby. So Bobby's at his house and he's cooking dinner, and then we hear this child talking. And I think it's like the second or third time we had a scene where Bobby talking to some kids, but the kids, we don't never get to see the kids. And this reminded me of, oh my God, there was another show I used to watch. Oh my God, what was that show? And the dad, the wife had died. Like, the guy he was an elderly guy, and the wife had died, but he thought he was still living, like the wife was still there, and he had all her medicine in the cabinet, and he would cook dinner, and he would set the table for both of them, and he would have conversations. And I just say, okay, why we never see the wife? Where is the wife? Because we found out the wife was dead, but he didn't want to let go. And then the kids had to come in and tell him, mom is dead. She's been dead for 2 years, Dad. It's time to move on. So that's what Bobby going through on this show, because he got the table set with 4 plates and everything, and he's sitting there having conversation with these kids, and there no kids there. And I'm thinking, is Bobby family? Like, does he keep that book with those survivors because something happened with his family and he wasn't able to save the family, and he going through some psychological stuff that he may need some help for? But Henrietta and he doesn't show up for work, and so Henrietta and Buck go to his apartment, to find out what's going on. So then Buck said, okay, well, we got to kick the door in because he ain't answering. So Henrietta said, no, we don't. I got a key. I got a spare key in case of emergency. So they go in, and he done drunk himself into a stupor, and he's passed out across the bed. So they get him into the shower and wake him up. And then they're sitting on the sofa talking, and they're telling him, like, we're here for you. If something's going wrong, you can talk to us. We can help you any kind of way that we can. And so he tells them that it's been he said it was 546 days. And then they're looking at him, and he said, okay, 18 months. And I think he was saying since he had been sober, because he's, I guess, a recovering alcoholic. And so then Buck looked at him and said, look, man, if you need help, just say I need help. And then he said, help. And then they all start crying together. I was just like, why I just got to be going through all these emotions while I am watching television? So what happened after that? I think, and then the show ended with Abby. She arrives at home, and Carla's there. And she's like really, really tired, because it's been a long day, and with the airplane crash, and then having to let that lady listen to that recording. And so Carla's like, you know, well, you don't, I can stay if you want to. If you want to get a good night's sleep, I don't mind. I can take the third shift. And so she's like, no, go home to your husband. Now, remember, Carla don't like her husband. So I'm thinking Carla just tried to stay over there because she don't want to go home. And Abby tells her, no, you got to leave. Go home to your husband. I got this. I'm okay. And so then, Carla was telling her that her mom had been very upbeat that day, and it was a really good day. She was talkative, and she had given her medicine, but it was going to take a while for the medicine to set in and for her to go to sleep. So Abby's like, okay. So Carla leaves, and Abby's mom starts talking to her, and she's telling her that she can tell when she's had a very stressful day because she's really mean and snapping at people. And then Abby was like, oh, okay. And then she said, and that girl, I don't like that girl over here because she keeps that temperature up too hot, and it's hot in here. And she said, and then Abby said, what girl, Mom? Her name is Carla. She has a name. And she said, well, whatever her name is, she keep it too hot up in here. So then Abby falls asleep. And she wakes up the next day, and Patricia done booked up out of there. She gone. So the show ends with Abby out running out the house, calling her mom, Mom, where are you? So hopefully Patricia ain't got into no trouble. And if y'all see the silver alert out there on the highway, they looking for Patricia. So guys, that's it for me. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you thought about the show, what you thought about the recap. Rate the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.